Good morning, Year 9. I hope you're well and safe and enjoying this bizarre weather. I'm really impressed with the work that you've given me so far. For those that you haven't done it, then you need to catch up pretty quick because here's going to be your next assignment. We're going to stay on the topic of portraits, and this time we're going to look at an artist called Florian Nicolle. He's a French graphic designer and illustrator and is very well known in his field for using very simple techniques but to a brilliant effect. And he's done lots of sports campaigns. So when I publish the assignment and put you up the link, I'll also type in the name of the artist so that you can have a look in your own time before you start what you're about to do. Take note of obviously what I'm doing, but take note of when you're looking at the artist how simplistic the work actually is. When you first look at it, you think, oh my gosh, that's absolutely amazing, I'm not sure I could ever do it. But if you kind of break it down into sections, you'll see that it's basically collage in the background. It normally uses newspapers and book paper. So there's collage involved. Tends to be a black pen, sometimes a white pen, but you don't need to worry about that. As long as you've got a black biro, you'll be fine. And a little bit of ink. And because we're obviously in lockdown and a bit limited with supplies, you're going to use coffee. Okay, like I showed you in the last portrait. If you've got watercolours, then you can add a little bit of colour, but please don't go mad with the colour. If you look at Florian's work, you will see that the colour palette is quite limited. In fact, not quite limited, very limited. And the majority of it is a brown coffee colour. So actually this works in our favour. Like I say though, if you have got watercolours, then I'm going to do a tiny bit of watercolours as well to show you how you can put kind of like pockets of colour to make the whole thing kind of pop out really. To give you that little bit of contrast. We're going to do it slightly different to how Florian does it because I want you to get in a different technique as well. But before I get to that, because you are going to sigh and think, ugh, because we have looked at this briefly in the past. But before we get to that, I want you to prep your page. And you'll see from listening to me that I've already got something on my page in terms of a very basic portrait. What I want you to do is to go back to the grid drawing from the portrait lesson 1 from your last task. Remember there were 4 lessons, so you're going back to the first one. If you've forgotten where to place things, basically follow that tutorial again, okay? Don't press too hard because you're going to be getting rid of that the grid, okay? You can still see my grid. I will be rubbing that out. So all I've done here, you can see within the coordinates of the first lesson, just like I showed you, I've put the eyes into 2, 4, so 2, 4 and 4, 4, okay. I haven't put any detail as of yet, and I've placed the nose in the bottom of 3, 5 and then the mouth in the box below. Like I say, I've not put any detail in there, it's but quite simply a line drawing at the moment, and I've put the basis of the eyebrows there. Now what you will see is, I'm just picking up my pencil here just to show you the line. I've put the line of the face in, so down the side here, down to the chin, and I'm just talking about the right hand side here, so down the side, okay, and I've stopped. I haven't done the left hand side. And when you look at Florian's work, you'll understand why. This is quite a common theme with him. He only tends to do, not all the time, but he tends to do almost like one side, and that's what we're going to give a go. I've brought the neck into it because I think with the portraits, the neck's really important. It can change the whole dimension of the picture in a positive way. Gives it a little bit of structure, but it's also quite pleasing to the eye. Now, in the style of Florian, I've brought that neck down, but then I've literally roughly brought a line down here, okay? Like I say, when you look at his work, you'll understand why, because he extends the lines. You will see here at the side of the face, I have then just extended that line coming out of the grid up the top here, and I have brought in kind of like a hairline, and it's literally just one line to give the illusion of where the hair would be. So I've brought it in down here. It's almost like a side, for fringe coming from the side, and I've just stopped it kind of there. You will see this more so in a minute because I'm going to be doing this in pen, but basically that's what I want you to do to begin with. Now in terms of the hair, those hairlines there, the one that's coming up from the side of the face and the one coming down for the fringe, you don't have to have the same hairstyle, but what I would say to you is be very careful. Look at his work first. I have taken these lines from his work, okay? Very simple, but gives the illusion of what you want. So if you want to do what I've done, go ahead. If you want to do something slightly different, that's fine, but look at his work and make an informed decision about what you're doing, okay? But do extend that neckline, really important. Okay, I said to you that Florian uses collage, and that's the once you've actually drawn the outline of your portrait, you're going to add the collage. Obviously, don't go start ripping up books in your house. Ask whoever you live with if there's an old book that you could use, or if you've got a computer and a printer. If you're lucky enough to have that in the house, then perhaps type into Google book pages or text, and maybe print off a sheet that you can use, okay? Or even better, because he uses it all the time, is newspaper, okay? I haven't got a newspaper here, so I'm going to use an old book. So, again, have you know, a selection of his work to inspire you in front of you, and kind of look at where he places the collage. It's really important that you just don't start sticking it all over the place. It's really important, okay? You need to make informed decisions about where you're putting it. You need to have a balance. So he tends to put more on one side than the other, okay? So I'm going to concentrate on the right hand side here, and what he tends to do is he puts collage on the outside of the face, almost like a background, okay, here. Once I've done that, I'm going to bring a little bit into the face, because he tends to do that as well. On some of his pieces he puts more than others, okay, but he's very subtle about what he does, so don't go overboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and get the illusion of that shape on the right, okay, and I'm going to get some book paper in here, but I'm going to layer it as well, okay? So if you just bear with me and watch what I'm about to do. So I've got a book paper here. The easiest way to rip the side, because he does tend to, you can tell from when you look at his work that it's not necessarily cut with scissors in terms of down the edge. So I would suggest to get a nice line, but a ripped line, put a long ruler on the edge of the paper and just hold it down and pull towards you. That gives you a really nice edge, but you still get that kind of like rough feel. It's really lovely, okay, quite subtle. What I'm going to try and do, and I'm going to try and do this by eye, and we'll see if this works. I'm going to try and get that line here, because what I want to do is I want to have that sitting in there, but I want to be able to see the face. So this is where I am going to use scissors, and I'm going to try and get that line there. In fact, let's place it here. And I'm going to follow this line here, but because I'm not using the grid at the moment, this might not be exact, so we'll see what happens, but we can make it work. That's the nice thing about collage. So I'm going to cut along that line and see what happens. how I've done. Okay, so it's not too bad actually. So I'm fitting there, but I'm clearly not down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold it there for the moment, and I'm slightly going into the face there, which I don't want, so I'm going to jiggle it about a little bit. But here, just hold that down here. There's the neck. I'm going to come down that line there because that's where I've taken my line there. So we're going to cut that bit out. Let's see if that works any better. That's much better. Hopefully you can see that that is much better. So I've got that into the side of the face. I've got my hairline there. I've got the side of the face. I'm coming down into the neck and the shoulder, wherever that line's extending to. So that fits really nicely there. Now, because I've got that, the shape that I want, okay, I'm going to stick that down as it is. I've just got a normal Pritt stick, okay. I'm going to place that. I'm going to place that here. It's important that you do this first because you can then paint on top of it. There we go. Right there. But what I'm going to do, like I said before, I'm going to layer it. Okay, so what I mean by that is I think this is a little bit flat at the moment. In terms of the collage. So what I'm going to do is I've got the bits that I'd ripped off the edge. I'm going to use them. So for example, let's have a play around. I've got the edge, it was over here. So I've got the edge there, but I could use that because what I like is I like the rip here against the page behind. And although that looks probably very subtle to you at the moment, you know, because it is, when you look closely at it, there's a really beautiful break in the paper. I'm just going to leave that there for the moment. I've got you don't need black card, but I've got a bit of black card here, which I'm going to place. I'm going to move that over there, I think. I'm going to place behind. I'm not gluing anything down, you'll notice at the moment. I'm placing things until I'm happy. So I'm going to put that there. Please don't worry if you haven't got black card, you don't need it. And I've got the other edge as well, so let's layer it there. So I quite like the effect that that has. So what I'm going to do is glue that back one first, which is the black. I'm only going to place it lightly in case I've put it in the wrong place. Let's put that there a minute. There. Let's bring that down. Yep, that will do fine. So I'm going to push that down. I need a bit more there. And then because I'm quite happy with this piece here, because I've been placing it on top, I'm going to glue that down as well. And I'm only going to leave a slight bit of black there. I'm going to try not to come into beyond that line. So you'll see what I'm about to do in a minute. I'm placing that here, but I'm not going to stick down the top and the bottom because I'm going to rip those bits. Because I still want, for a start, that extended line there. I don't want to go over it, so I've just ripped that so it fits. But also I'm going to rip that top because I don't want that going beyond that hairline. And I don't mind about that black showing, that's absolutely fine. Okay, I just didn't want the paper going beyond. And I've then got this other one, which I shall put there. So let's glue that down. That's going to go there. Now, I do want some this side. I don't want to forget about it, but I'm going to be much more subtle. This is quite a large piece. So this side, not going to be as much, not at all. What he tends to do is he tends to put a little bit in the face, okay? So it could be, for example, I'm just going to place it for the moment in case I don't like it, but it could be, for example, that I put something there. I've got a tiny little bit here, which I could put on the top. I'm going to place it there. I'm not going to glue anything for the moment. And I've got a really random piece here. They've all come from the same page, okay? But this, I could almost use this to frame this side, because you've got that slight edge there, which is quite nice, I feel. So that could, for example, go there. And then I've got this corner bit here, which has come from this bit here, but I could extend it, I could take it away over here. But I'm looking at that thinking that's too much collage for Florian Nicolle, so we're going to take some of this away. So if we remove that for the moment, and play around with the composition. And when I say composition, that means layout. That's a word you're going to get used to. I think what it is, I actually quite like that there, I just think it's too big. So let's try that instead. Let's move those out of the way a minute. Let's place that. On top. And again, I still think it's a little bit too big. Let's take that bit up. There. Maybe it's just that bit we need. Let's have a look. That works better, like that. See, sometimes less is more. So I'm going to glue that bit there. I'm putting that bit under the eye. And if you look at his work, you'll see he quite often does that. And then I'm going to glue this bit for the corner, because I really like this edge, this corner here, because it almost frames it. I'm going to put that there. Okay, so this is the bit that some of you will love this and some of you will hate it, but regardless, I want you to give it a go. You have got your basic line, like I said, and remember what I said, you're going to be rubbing this grid out, but not just yet. What you're going to do now is a continuous line over the portrait. And what I mean by that is that you're going to work with black biro. So you want a pen that's not going to smudge, because you're going to add water at some point, or the coffee, and you don't want it to smudge. So a normal black biro is fine, but you're going to, now that you've got the placement of your portrait, you're going to do a continuous line, and I just want you to watch just for the moment. Okay, so don't worry if you suddenly, you know, it comes off by mistake, you know, the pen comes up by mistake, but try not to. Okay, so you've got to really concentrate. So I tend to start with the eye, okay, and I'm going to if you think of this almost like a bit of wire work, and when you're doing it as well, I want you to think about the fact that you can press dark and you can press light. Just because you're using a pen doesn't mean you can't get tone. You absolutely can. Come into the eyelashes here. Now I don't mind. I've come down to the eye here, the kind of tear duct, and I've said it's continuous line, which means I don't want you taking your pen off, okay? And I am going to live by that rule right now as well. But if I lightly come up, I don't mind seeing that line there that's coming up to the eyebrow. I don't mind that, because when you look at Florian and Nicolle's work, you'll see that there are random lines all over the place, and we're going to use those in a minute. Now, the line that I used for the fringe and for the hair, and you'll see that I'm kind of doubling up on my lines here. I quite like it. It does, like I said before, reminds me of a piece of wire, and in fact many wire artists or wire sculptures are done from one piece of wire, so they'll start with a drawing of a continuous line. So you can see I'm doubling up, don't mind that at all. I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to come back on this side. I have not taken my pen off yet. Oops, I didn't do that, that's what I was saying. Kind of slipped there, so that's just natural sometimes. I'm going to bring the eye in here and leave that white part. Okay, so now I'm going to come down into the nose. I don't want a really dark line into the nose. And then I'm going to get to the nostrils. And here. Come back down to the bottom of the nose, down to the mouth. And bring a little bit of tone into here. Okay, so we're going to put, I'm going to go back actually up to that first, the left hand eye. I'm going to come down here, back around here, and I'm just going to come into the actual eye bit there. I'm going to press a little bit harder on the outside. Does that look more like the other one? Nope, we need to go back to the other one now. Don't mind that the fact that I'm doing several lines here, I quite like it. Come in the middle here, press harder. And we've got something resembling portrait. So what I would like you to do now is to come and kind of put like cross hatching, but almost like it's what we call stippling. It's almost like these little bits here are almost like a scribble, but a controlled scribble. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to come down into the neck and down into here. Okay, and I'm going to stop with the pen there. We will go back to pen in a bit, but now we're going to add some coffee, and if you've got it, a bit of watercolour. But like I say, don't worry if you haven't got any. Let's move all these bits out of the way. So I've got the coffee like I showed you in the first portrait. So you literally get the coffee granules and put some water within it. I've also got a pot of just water for the watercolours, and I have got my watercolours as well. I've got a couple of different size brushes, but again, that doesn't matter if you haven't. You know, one's fine. And what I'm going to do now is look at this and think about where I actually want to place the ink. Don't go mad with it. Like I say, Florian Nicolle is renowned for keeping it quite simple, and that's what makes it really effective. What I would do first, and what I'm going to do now, is you'll see that I've still got the grid. So grab a rubber at this point. Because you've used biro, it's absolutely fine. And you're going to rub the pencil marks out. Okay. Okay, so you're going to get some of your coffee, and I wouldn't put any coffee in here for the moment. He tends to concentrate on the face. Now it's really important that you think, like I said before, about where you're putting it, because he doesn't put it everywhere. Okay, so for example, you might put it in here. You can paint over the collage paper, that's absolutely fine. And like I say, doesn't put it everywhere. Okay. I might extend that line. I'm going to rinse that off. I'm using just a dark brown here, but in terms of watercolour, just to add a darker tone of brown. But basically, if you haven't got watercolours, then just add more coffee granules to your coffee and it'll make it a darker tone. So don't be thinking, watching this, oh, I haven't got that colour. You will have, quite simply, by putting the granules in. Just more, it'll make it darker. It's just I'm sitting here with them, so I'm using them so I don't have to leave doing this portrait. Otherwise you'll be sitting waiting. I'm going to go back to my coffee. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring some coffee into the book paper, so there's more of a relationship. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to add, let's think, a little bit of the orange, I think, just because it's got that warmth about it. And I'm going going to put a slight blue into the eye. Not loads, because you don't want to overwhelm it. And I'm going to come back into this part here with the brown, because that's gone slightly too orange. I'm going to make kind of almost like a purpley red. Let's try that out. Use this colour for the mouth. But also I'm going to bring that colour just so that it's got a relationship with the rest. Into the eyelids. Let's bring it up into here as well. Okay, so if you end up with like what I've got here, and this area here has gone too dark, you can always collage back on top. So for example, if I was to put that there, or even take another bit of paper, and get that ruler again. Just remember what I said about going down here. Excuse me. And I think already placing that on there is better because it's too dark a colour underneath. Okay, like that. Much better. Okay, so now what we want to do, I'm going to put water, just water, into this area here, okay, because I'm going to add, not everywhere, I think we need something here to kind of link it all. Let's go for a very slight bit of coffee, just to take the starkness of the white away. Okay, and what you'll notice as well from Florian and Nicolle is that it tends to do little splats of coffee, or in fact let's do the coffee. Like that. Okay, we're just going to let that dry a moment, because then what we're going to do is we're going to work back on top of it with the pen, because what Florian and Nicolle does is add kind of quite random shapes, but with lines within them to add a pattern. Okay, so what I mean by that is, for example, maybe above the eye, and this is just black biro, might have a section like that where actually bring a line like that in. Okay. It might be that bring it down here. And let's bring a line, let's follow this line here. Put one there as well. Okay. Let's have a look. Let's go back into here. Yeah, I think we're pretty much there. Now the reason that's not as dark is because I haven't waited for it to dry properly, so you might want to wait for yours to completely dry before you start working on top. And I'm going to get some of that, I'll make some of that mouth colour. In fact, I'm going to make it slightly more of the blue. I'm going to bring some of that in there. Right, I think I'm going to leave it there. So just to recap, what I would like you to do is look at the artist, before you do anything, look at the artist Florian Nicolle. Find, I would say, probably 3 of your favourite. Don't type his name into Google and then pick the first 3. Actually have a good look. Give yourself like 10 minutes to find. If you've got Pinterest, that's brilliant. Loads on Pinterest. and you can find your favourite three just so that you can get some inspiration and look at the layouts. You are then going to go back to lesson 1 that you did for the last assignment. You're going to do the grid, so you're going to place your features so that your proportions are right. You're then going to extend some lines, okay, for the hairline, the side of the face, the neck and the shoulder. You're then going to do the collage. You're then going to add coffee, and if you have it, a very limited palette of watercolour. Okay, you're then going to add pattern with biro afterwards. Okay, enjoy, and I look forward to seeing what you produce. Take care.